to the Care Right podcast, your go-to resource for all things elder care. Guiding us through this journey is Annalie Kruger, the founder of Care Right Incorporated, and she has been steadfastly supporting families across the United States. Each episode brings you expert insights, innovative strategies, and practical advice, ensuring that you're well equipped to provide the best possible care for your loved ones. Expect to gain valuable knowledge, learn from real-life stories, and get inspired to take action in your own caregiving journey. So buckle up as we dive into an in-depth discussion of elder care planning and together embrace the journey of caring for aging loved ones on the Care Right podcast.
Hi, everybody. My name is Annalie Kruger with Care Right Incorporated. We work with families virtually all across the country. Our clients are usually families with aging loved ones who are taking care of their elderly parents and realizing that maybe mom and dad aren't doing as well as they hoped, or they are already in a crisis and wondering what are our care options and how is our family dynamics going to be impacted along this aging journey. One would hope that the aging process brings families together, but I am here to tell you as a 30-year family consultant, it often does not bring families together. So that's what we do is we facilitate the family meetings, find out what's working well, what's not working well, what are the goals? Is the goal to stay at home? What's the plan if staying at home is no longer safe, affordable, feasible? Where does it make sense for mom and dad to live? And is there a relocation that might need to be considered if your parents don't live near where you live and you can't constantly keep driving or flying back and forth to check on them every time that there's a medical crisis? So that's what Care Right does. We've been nationwide since 2012. It seemingly has taken a pandemic to wake families up and say, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with mom and dad? We can't travel to check in on them, and they weren't doing great on their own at home before, and now who knows how really well they're doing. And so sometimes now with families that can travel now, they're checking in on their parents and they're pretty blindsided by how poorly their parents are doing with weight loss, not being able to manage their mail, food that's expired, like way expired in the refrigerator, falls, they're not drinking enough water, they're getting dehydrated and hospitalized for urinary tract infections and stuff like that. So just a whole host of not things that are going great. So that's usually who calls us, the burned out caregiver or the concerned family member who has seen all of this kind of unfolding and says, hey, we need to figure out our plan here and start these planning processes and conversations sooner rather than later. So today, I am really excited because we have a fantastic guest that absolutely every single person, business, and professional and family member needs to know about. So we have Elisa Bosley. I know you're like, oh, on our podcast today, and I'm going to read her bio. It's really, really impressive. So listen up. She is the founder of spiritualeldercare.com, a free resource of original worship service agendas, Bible discussion guides, sing-along classic hymns, and more, all designed to meet the spiritual needs of older adults, especially those living with Alzheimer's and other dementias. She is a licensed, non-denominational Christian chaplain with more than 35 years of ministry experience in both church and parachurch settings. Prior to COVID-19 lockdowns, she provided spiritual care for 3 senior residents in Boulder County, Colorado. When COVID hit, she pivoted to video. Today, the Spiritual Elder Care YouTube channel has more than 1,600 subscribers worldwide, and she's logged nearly more than 61,000 views in the last month. Her deep desire is to make it easy for anyone to provide this much needed care to elders with dementia. So welcome.
Thank you, Annalie. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So tell me what is spiritual care?
Well, that's a great first question. Spiritual care, especially for older adults, the first thing I like to explain is that there's a distinction between spiritual care and religious care. So people often think, oh, religious care, I'm not religious or whatever. Religious care is a specific faith tradition and how a person expresses that throughout the course of their life. Spiritual care is part of every single human being. It's needed by every single human being because it gets at things like joy and purpose and hope and comfort and assurance. So that's how I would describe spiritual care and why I think it's so important for everyone who's on this planet and is alive and breathing.
I agree. I agree. Why does spiritual care matter to older adults?
Well, in my experience, Annalie, the thing that often gets dropped with care in general. I mean, we've had so much discussion over the last number of years, excellent discussion about person-centered care. That's an enormous improvement, right?
Yeah.
We're not just taking care of their bodies, we're trying to be give them social and emotional support. But the spiritual care, surprisingly, often gets dropped. And I think that's because some people may not feel comfortable or say, well, I'm not a licensed anything or, professional spiritual or religious person. So and because we kind of forget that those needs of meaning and joy are still so important. So oh, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
That's okay. That spiritual care is just really important for our elderly people, and that it often gets dropped.
Thank you.
In the plan of care.
Yes, and those activities that are tied to those long-term memories, those rituals, those procedural, what they're called procedural activities. Bingo's great, trivia games are great, but research even shows that religious rituals and activities in particular yield an enormous benefit for someone's well-being deep in their soul. It actually correlates to better, not just emotional health, but physical health and well-being in older adults. I mean, think about that. The current generation of older adults so often going to church or going to whatever their faith tradition was an absolutely integral part of their week. It's Sunday, you go to church or whatever it is that you go to. And suddenly it's taken away. They're no longer able to participate in that vibrant community and place of purpose that they had their whole lives. And yet still so many of those memories are hardwired into their, again, the long-term memory, which is what we're constantly trying to access and engage with, especially with people with dementia.
Yeah, I started my career when I was in college, getting my social work degree. I actually worked in nursing homes as an activity assistant, and I absolutely loved it. In fact, I almost didn't keep going to college because I love doing activities so much, because it just, to create those moments of joy and help these frail, elderly, vulnerable adults have fun in their day and feel at peace for that period of time, at least that you're working with them. And they can do bingo, they can do craft class with some hand over hand assistance or guidance. But it's so cool to be able, because I played the piano as well. So I would play, and I used to play for church, so in Sunday school. So I would play all these hymns, and these people, these dementia patients that they couldn't string 3 or 4 words together because of the severity of the dementia progression that they were in that stage. But they could sing "How Great Thou Art" or "Take Time to Be Holy." I'm Methodist, so "Take Time to Be Holy," all those "Amazing Grace," all those things that we went to, that we grew up with, those hymns. And then I would do like Bible study, scripture reading, and like fill in the blank. And that long-term memory for our seniors and our persons with dementia, that's in there, and it's our job to like get it out so that that's part of their who they are. And that's
exactly right. Yes, that's exactly right. And they've been my teachers in this,
Oh, yeah.
that as I started this work, I was utterly amazed at the reactions that I would get. I mean, I knew that music was important. I just didn't realize how much of a response I would get. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to this day, I mean, I started writing down stories, when I would go in, and the amazing miracles that I would see happen during
Yeah.
a Bible discussion, and these questions, and I would just think, how is this happening? But there's
Yeah.
something that gets accessed, and I do think it goes beyond, human ability. There's a connection with the
Mm-hmm.
spiritual realities that really comes through. And, in my belief, God has not forgotten these people. People,
Right.
and caregivers included, can think, oh, they've forgotten about their faith, or they've forgotten about God. I don't think that's true. And
It
God
has
certainly has
no.
not forgotten them. So
That's
there's
right.
just something ineffable that happens. And I lost track of the number of stories. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
came I came to expect it, right? Just people suddenly becoming, as you say, people that had been nonverbal for years,
Mm-hmm.
starting to mouth the words to these songs, or
Yeah.
reacting to a piece of scripture. And again, they were my teachers in that.
That's right. And not only the singing, for those that would sing, but it's so rewarding in every single way to be able to
Mhm.
create that memory for that person for at that time. But not only just the singing part when they would engage in
Mhm.
singing, but just tapping their toe or swaying to the
Right,
music, and just that's what's powerful. That's
right.
what's powerful. And they will likely not remember it 7 seconds
Oh yeah,
from today or from then, but you know what, at that moment we created moments of joy where they were happy.
right. And that
Even
lingers. That
it does
lingers.
linger.
The feeling lingers. I know they won't remember my name from day to
Yep.
day or week to week, but the feeling lingers. And that is, it's even backed up with research that.
One of the things that my mom had dementia, and one of the things that, because I used to do activities and I've always worked in long-term care, and now I'm a family consultant for for families to help them understand long-term care and the landscape of healthcare and stuff. But so we've always kept my mom busy with diversional activities, little
Mhm.
puzzles, sewing tiles, little things that she could do on her own, and books that she could read, and Bible study or Bible story books. They have really good Bible story books. And so we got those, and she would just read those and read those. And then my sister made her these little, they're kind of like on little, what we used to call recipe cards. I forget what they're
Mhm.
called nowadays, but
Index cards. Yeah.
there you go, that. We used to call them recipe cards, which is funny that I even would say that because I don't cook at all. But I used to call it. My grandparents lived with us and they cooked. So my sister made all these like little easy scriptures, and like Jesus loves you, and
Mhm.
we love you. And she made this whole little like booklet for mom, and mom would just spend hours reading it out loud. And
Mm.
she's like, oh, I love you too, honey. So it was like an interactive kind of thing for her as
Yes.
well. And it gave her so much joy. And that's,
Mhm.
as adult kids and as a professional, we tend to
Mhm.
want three things for the people that we work with or the people that we love. We want them to be happy. We want them to have the best quality of life that they
Mhm.
can. And we want them to have the best quality of care that they can get. Those are the
Absolutely.
three things in my 30 years experience that that's what it boils down to. That's
Yeah.
what we want for our loved ones or those that we work with.
And spiritual care hits all three of those.
Yes.
And not just, I will add, not just for the person with dementia, also for the caregiver,
You're
because
right.
it's astonishing when you see the kind of reaction that your loved one may have to whatever it is that's a spiritual memory, and it gives so
Mm-hmm.
much hope. One of the things I'm constantly trying to preach is your loved one is not gone. They're
Right.
still in there, and they still have purpose and meaning. And the scripture teaches us that though our outer body is wasting away, our inner body is, or our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day.
Mm-hmm.
Their soul is still in there. Their soul is as young as the day they were born, and
Yeah.
is still alive and vibrant. And that gives a ton of hope. And again, purpose and meaning to the person caring for their loved one, especially with dementia.
And I think it's important to also talk briefly too about the dying process. So when I'm with clients as they're passing, I've been at this for 30 years. So I've had many people that I've literally been sitting there holding their hand as they took their last breath. But again, all that stuff I learned as an activity assistant and obviously incorporated as a social worker, that spiritual health is so important, and that can help reduce pain. It can help reduce anxiety. And playing music, nowadays we have Pandora. We didn't have all that stuff back then. We didn't have the internet back then.
Right.
So we had like the little tape recorders that we had to like flip the tape over, right? And be like, hey, go back to Ethel's room in 15 minutes because I got to flip the tape, but nowadays we have Pandora. And so, and the thing I want to just bring up, because I'm sure you see this too, is maybe mom and dad, or mom or dad were really spiritual or religious, however you want to, they have a deep faith, but maybe the kids don't. And so they, and it's no fault of anyone's. It's like, well, if it's not important to the kids, and they're like, well, why would we need to play that kind of music or address those needs with mom? I'm like, well, because it's important to her, or it might have been important to her in the past, but what's it going to hurt at this point?
Right. Absolutely.
Let's still honor who she was, because who she was is still in there. We just need to like tease her out a little bit. And the way to do that is through music, engagement, interaction, and prayer, and all of the things that you offer.
Well, that's exactly why I created the website, because I felt like, well, first of all, when I started the work, I was looking for resources online for what I was doing, and essentially didn't find any, or very, very few.
Yeah.
And because I have I still am a professional writer and editor, I thought, okay, well, what I'm creating for myself, other people may be looking for. And so my goal was, lower the threshold for what people can do and what they can provide, either as an activity director or as a caregiver. Yeah, gosh, I don't remember, what were those prayers, Yeah. So there's common prayers. There's more than 100, downloadable sing-along hymns. There's, devotions and Bibles. So it's meant to be a resource that people can pick and choose from to say, yeah, let me try this. I have a vague memory that my mom liked this, or my dad really used to sing me a snatch of this song or whatever.
Yeah.
And find whatever it is to use and to try, and not feel like, wow, I have to look this up and I don't know where to look. It's kind of a one-stop shop for providing that very, again, that really hardwired long-term memory, spiritual care, the resources there. So yeah, that's what it's for.
You're doing amazing, important work. I can't tell you enough, and maybe it's just because I am deeply faith-based. So this just makes sense to me. So hopefully those that are listening or watching the podcast also are like, wow, this is so cool that there's like already one central resource that all we have to do is log in and pull down or download whatever it is that we want, and get started right away. And that, because one of the things, and then we'll close, but one of the things that I know that families who have a loved one with dementia, with memory impairment and dementia, they don't always know how to have meaningful visits anymore, because you can't really talk about, well, this is what's going on, or, mom, do you remember when you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, don't quiz her, don't, and so I know that with my aging planning and family consulting, I educate families about dementia, because a lot of them they don't do a lot of research. They get this big bomb of, oh, your loved one has dementia, and then it's kind of like, good luck with you from the healthcare industry, right? There's no one there to hold their hand, and that's what I do, because that's what families need. They need that hand holding and just guidance along the way, because that journey is very, very long.
Right.
And it's, believe me, as someone who watches this every day with the clients I work with, but also my own mother, it's gut-wrenching and heartbreaking to watch the person that you love and care about failing literally by the week. And so, so I know of a lot of families, whether they're out of state and they can't visit, but they're calling and trying to talk to their loved one, or they're actually in person with their loved one. They're like, I don't know what to talk about with mom, because our conversation is just not how it used to be. And we can't have we just can't talk about stuff because she doesn't know. Sometimes she doesn't know who I am, or she doesn't know who her grandkids are. And I always say pictures, music, but don't quiz. Don't quiz.
Right. Please
Just
please
say,
strike
Mom,
the
I
word
love.
remember from your vocabulary.
That's right. This isn't quiz time. This is like quality time, and that's very different than quiz time. So bring in pictures, make these little booklets, so that your loved one can just kind of flip through. And now with your resources, they can easily just download whatever they need to, and that can be their conversation and their visit. The other thing is sometimes families, when they're out of state and they get to go see their loved one, they feel like they have to be there for like all afternoon. And I'm like, no, just come for short periods of time, but do something creative, like the resources that you offer, because trying to have a 2 or 3 hour visit with someone whose attention span is very short is going to be stressful for both of you.
Right.
So,
well, and as you say, the music, I mean, if I was going to suggest one thing to start with, it probably would be the music. And it's not even, so many of the songs that are on my website that I recorded with numerous professional musicians, they're part of our culture even. There's spirituals like Amazing Grace and Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And, there's songs like that, and then there's a trove of more songs that are more specific to a faith tradition. But again, research shows, and this I think is one of the most miraculous things I've come across, is that the center of the brain that is responsible for music storage and memory is almost completely untouched by dementia throughout the entire course of the disease. And that's up till the point of death. And that's why it continues to be such a powerful connector and engaging resource for people, even at the very end. As you mentioned, hospice, they've been so far ahead of the game in terms of that beautiful spiritual aspect of care at the very end of life. What I've often called it is the not yet hospice. Because as you say, the journey can last for years. And so there's so many places that we can still connect and engage and draw out those moments of incredible joy and meaning.
So how can people reach you if they want to learn more?
Yes, spiritualeldercare.com is my website. And if they have questions for me in particular, there's a contact form on there. I respond to each and every email that I get. For the videos, it's youtube.com/spiritualeldercare. And there's, now there's, because of COVID, more than a year's worth of worship services and the hymns that have the sing-along lyrics, et cetera, available for anyone who needs them.
Excellent. Well, very good. Thank you so much for your time today and answering my questions and sharing your important work with everyone that can hopefully access this podcast and hopefully they'll reach you and leverage and utilize the resources that you've compiled for them.
Well, thank you so much. And again, for your incredibly important and heartfelt work. I appreciate it. I know how important it is what you do.
Thank you so much.
Oh, God bless you.
God bless you too, and stay warm.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. You too.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Care Right podcast. We hope today's discussion has provided you with valuable insights. If so, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our podcast with others who might find it helpful. Remember, Care Right is more than just a podcast. It's a community dedicated to supporting family caregivers with comprehensive care planning, crisis management, and resources for every stage of aging. Stay connected with us for future episodes as we continue to explore essential topics in aging planning, elder care, and financial planning. Until next time, take care, plan wisely, and remember, you're not alone in your caregiving journey.